Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. Yesterday morning, Brian, I started my Kaplan Guru Exam Prep collaborative class, and I jumped into the class, and the person says, "What happened to the greetings and salutations?" I go, "Well, that's a YouTube thing. I don't do that everywhere I go."
Right.
So, welcome to our Tuesday live stream. This is the special birthday edition
Oh my goodness.
of our live stream, and so for the birthday edition, I'm going to whip out in celebration of my 63rd year here on planet Earth. I think I'm going into my 64th. I'm going to pour myself a glass of Herradura, and we'll be testing victories, and we'll be toasting my status as a.
Just out of curiosity, Dean, did you post our picture from last week's dinner?
See, you are so not on social media.
No, I'm not.
So for you to even ask that, Brian,
Sorry,
it's silly because the answer is yes.
Okay.
How many views do you think the picture has in comments?
4,317.
Thousands of views. I couldn't ask for anything better than my birthday, Brian. The channel just crossed, can you believe this? 8 million views. Crazy. Our Facebook Baby Brokers Doing Hat Trick just crossed 2,000 members. So social media, I know you're not a thing, but everybody, I called you just so you know, since you didn't see it, I didn't want to compromise your private information. So the caption to the picture was Mr. and Mrs. Teskgeek and the Series 7 Guru brainstorming podcasts and podcast locations. And
there you go.
so we got lots of turnover. All right, back to business here, so to speak. We're always, not most Tuesday nights, we have our very special VIP guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Teskgeek Exam Prep LLC. We will take care of some housekeeping, some admin, and then we'll try to our best ability to help you with any content questions you may have. So tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. And as you do have a question for us, once we get through the housekeeping part of this, tell us what exam you're taking. It's not necessary, but it's helpful because the way they test things on different exams has it's either shallow or more deep, so sometimes we can figure it out by the nature of the question. But if it's SIE or S7 or S6 or 63, followed by your question, it'll help us pick it out of the playlist. And remember, we have lots of people joining us, victorious test takers as well. So feel free to interact in the chat if you'd like. If you are looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, there's nothing better than my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is organized in playlists. So if you're taking we just had a guy today, Brian took a 66 and said that 66 practice tests were very helpful. And so, I linked to that. We have those from different vendors. Brian has been kind enough to give us permission to put his Teskgeek practice tests, which I think have the strongest correlation there. If it's 66, it starts typically a playlist, 66, with a podcast series. That's one Brian and I did. That's playlist 1 of, I think, 4. Then lectures, then an explication, and those practice tests. They're in suggested order, and the videos are in suggested order. We are crossing, Brian, 2,000 videos. So Brian is a good distiller of content. Me, not so much. So, I have several videos on different topics, same topic. Please use the channel search bar. If you're looking for a particular topic, put that in the channel search bar, and probably a half a dozen videos on accrued interest or margin or parity calculations will show up. Brian and I know tonight it's okay that we're going to get asked and we're going to answer the same question. And that's okay. But if you would have put that in the channel search bar, you could have watched us do it previous times. If you're looking for a paid supplement to your study materials, I think there's nothing better than a Kaplan Cubic. If it's a Series 7, for example, $55.80 with the Guru 15 discount code at checkout. If you combine that with the Teskgeek, Brian's Teskgeek courses, or a distillation, I think the best distillation of those paid study materials to the actual exam. If we're talking 65, for example, my God, the Kaplan 65 book, I think, is like 700 pages. Is every page testable? No. And so what you want to do is kind of distill that. That's $100 with the Guru 20 discount code that Brian has been kind enough to grant our viewers. That's all in. It's a little over 100. You combine things all a cart, why. But, with that video, you get, I think, the best practice test out there. You get some class notes. So if you are looking to join a tribe, why not join our tribe, Guru Nation? We do a weekly Q&A session at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. If you go there, you will see a free weekly Q&A jam session that you can sign up for. I have a whiteboard. It's a Zoom link, and we can do a lot more than we can do in the context of the live stream. We also have their free office hours for paid students. Lurker, I think you said you can't find any tutoring, so you have my permission to go to the booking page and join me for one of those events, and then we can figure out if we can fit you in somewhere, tutor. I do get booked up. We have other communities besides Guru Nation here on YouTube. We have a Facebook community called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby brokers are a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. A hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. SIE 766. And we're coming up on 2,000 members. Crazy. Our Reddit communities. We have a subreddit for the Series 6. We have a subreddit community for SIE and 7. We have a subreddit community for 63, 65, 66, our Series 66. And we have a subreddit for 9s, 10s, and 24s, our Series 24. I do collaborative classes. If you're joining me for my 66 class today, thank you so much. I'll be doing another 66 class, 3-day Guru Exam Prep Kaplan Collab, and that's November 17th and, September 20th. Oh, that's one I'm in. Never mind. I got to put up a new one. Next one is November. And then I'm teaching a Series 7, October 20 through 22nd. All right, so let's see what we got going on in the comments. Oh, my good, Brian, what a day. It looks like we got a lot going on today in the comments.
Let's do it.
Lurker, I think I just told you, Lurker, go ahead to the booking page. If you can't, I do get sold out a lot. It's like booking an airline flight. So just join me, go to the class tab, join me for one of those events you find there. You have my permission to do so, and then, we can find you a spot if that works. Series 4. Woo! I took my last 76. You're in good shape. Should I do it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're texting Thursday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah, why not? I don't think a red flag with a 76, Nima. So if I thought you were going to have a crisis in confidence, I would say no. But I think there's no problem with doing that. What's your thought, Brian? Skip it or do it? Yeah, why not? Why not?
Everything's looking good. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, thank you, Don. So thank you. This is our special birthday edition. My birthday is actually on Thursday, but I'm not going to be on the live stream on Thursday, so I'm celebrating a little early. I was also going to light up a really nice cigar, Brian, but I thought trying to smoke a cigar and drink and do this, I'm not as good at multitasking as when I was a younger man.
No.
I consistently scored high 60s on the first attempts. That's great. That's what we want to see. 80s and 90s when reviewing. Just be careful about 80s and 90s. That's not because you're memorizing things. Yeah, and I told you, I do think it's a good idea because we have good data that suggests that that's not going to damage your psyche or do any harm. And I would tell you, Nima, I'm a believer in the Hippocratic Oath, which is first, do no harm. Brian, as I've told you off grid, I've had a new power system. I just redid the whole thing. I got 600 amp hours. I got this huge inverter. I just love it. Anyways, the guy was in the neighborhood and he said, Dean, instead of coming Thursday to fine tune the echo gen, the generator that feeds this thing, if my batteries get below a certain level. I said, well, yeah, but the power can't go off. This is not a day where because when the power's off, I just take off and go on grid. Sure enough, when 12:30, he hit some button, my power goes poof. And I always tease anybody coming to work on my property. First, do no harm. When you leave this property, you got to leave Dean in a better position than when you found him. Right? So Nima, that would be my thing. If you think it's going to do some damage to your psyche, then don't do it. It's your choice. You've earned the choice. I always love talking to test takers who are in a position where they can choose to do something or not. Right? Hey guys, taking the 66 Thursday. Adjury 79, love it. 89, love it. Thoughts on those scores? Well, I just told you, Luke, as I read it, love it, love it, love it. Any sessions for tomorrow? Same suggestion, do no harm, right? Get some rest. I think particularly NASA exams, Luke. Your reading skills got to be in top form. RTFQ, RTFA. I know when I'm tired, my reading skills are diminished. So I would think tomorrow, make sure as much as you can that you just keep your rhythm. You get a good night's rest. Maybe watch the Mighty 90. Don't do anything that's going to make you go backwards. If you feel like you're going backwards, stop. And I will astral project good energy your way. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, CT. Thank you. Look at that, all those bro. Love it. What better birthday present, by the way? I was telling Brian Sebastian, can you believe this? My channel just crossed 8 million views. I don't know if that's like 2 people watching it 4 million times. I would never in my wildest dream have thought that. We crossed 2 million hours. Can you imagine? So, Sebastian, in my wildest dream, I never thought when I was 63, I would be an official social media influencer. Who would have thunk it? You know, it's a real job. A lot of these young men and women have this as their real job. Crazy. Cheers. You've helped a lot of folks. Well, we try, Lurker. We try. Brian and I both think our business is simpler than a lot of businesses. You know, if we can help you and contribute to your testing victories, you're usually a happy person when you make your mark. And most of our business is based on referrals from victorious test takers and those test takers that we help make their mark. So, I remember, Brian, I was training a new guy, and he said to me, how important it is that people pass their test. And I said, well, that's kind of the sine qua non.
That's what we're doing.
The most important thing, right?
Wow.
Underwriting, again, confusing on the syndicate, the manager. Well, you should work Acolyte. You need to know that. So put in syndicate or underwriting, and you'll see me do a lot of video questions where I go over, as well as an underwriting municipal bond video I have, where we go over the components of the syndicate, right? The difference between what the issuer receives, let's say it's a muni bond 990, and what the customer pays, let's say par, is called the spread. That's a test question. In my example, that's a point. And in muni underwritings, there are 3 individual components to that spread. There's the management fee. That's typically the smallest individual component of the spread. And the manager gets that on every bond sold, regardless of who sells it. We're going to have a syndicate. If I'm the manager, I say to UBS, let's say I'm Gamma Global. That was my broker dealer. I say, UBS, how many bonds do you want to take down? And they say, Dean, what can I take them down for? I say, you can take down bonds from the syndicate at $991.25. So I'm going to make an eighth, $1.25 on every bond sold. And then UBS would have to decide whether they want to sell the bonds themselves and make 7/8, the total takedown, not an individual component of the spread. Or do they want to build their own bracket? They probably want to do a little bit of both. Sell some bonds themselves as well as build their own bracket. They're going to build Acolyte a selling group. Selling group members are not members of the syndicate. They're not liable for unsold securities. So UBS calls Schwab and says, hey, you want to join, help me sell some bonds as a selling group member? Schwab says, sure. What can we have the bonds for? UBS says $9.95. So that means Schwab is going to make a half a point. That's called test question, the selling concession. The selling concession test question is typically the largest individual component of the spread. The total takedown is the additional takedown and the concession. So you need to know those components. The other thing, before UBS joined my syndicate, again, very testable, they say, Dean, what kind of syndicate is it? Is it a Eastern syndicate or Western syndicate? If it's an Eastern syndicate, I think of Eastern undivided. I think of that as Harvard, Yale, Princeton. We're all in it together, like an Eastern family dinner. Nobody leaves the table until all the food is gone. Or is it a Western syndicate? Divided. What goes down stays down. So you should expect questions where they tell you how many bonds there are, what kind of syndicate it is, what is the syndicate member's liability. And you should expect a compensation question. Your firm is one of those members we talked about. They sold X number of bonds. What is their compensation? Your thoughts, Brian? I know Brian's got his whiteboard, so let me give Brian his whiteboard.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a component of the Series 7, whether it's munis or equity stock. The process is pretty much the same.
Hmm.
The vocabulary can get a little
Yes.
funky sometimes, especially when it comes to the compensation.
Yeah, I
So-
think, Brian, I love what Brian has there. In stocks, that's called the underwriting fee. And in muni bonds, that's called the additional takedown.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, that was, I think, a nice overview. Remember, I have lots, Acolyte, of content. I have lots of videos. I have an entire video. Now, another thing, Acolyte, that shows up is order priority. You know, there's no such thing as a hot muni bond offering. They don't just fly off the shelf. So, you know, this is the old-fashioned days, like when Brian and I were brokers dialing for dollars. Hey, Brian, I got these Seattle GOs. And, you know, the syndicate could be open for quite a while. A good way, Acolyte, to remember order priority is pretty girls date more, or pretty guys date more, or pretty girls drive Mercedes, or pretty guys drive Mercedes, or pro golfers don't miss, you know, pick one. And that memory aid device is to remind us that pre-sale orders have priority. So, you know, there's a notice of sale on the bond buyer. Again, Gamma Global, I subscribe to that because I'm in public finance. And I see this notice of sale. It's a competitive underwriting. And I call up UBS and I say, hey, I'm submitting a bid for the bonds. Would you like to join my syndicate? UBS says yes. I call Bank of America. I say, hey, Bank of America, want to join my syndicate? They go, Dean, we are forming a competing syndicate. I go, ooh, say it ain't so. There'll be various competing syndicates. You know, it's, you know, my example, so I'm going to win. I'm going to provide the issuer with the lowest net interest cost. So before we win the syndicate, Franklin Templeton calls me and says, hey, Dean, if you win, we want 10 million of those Seattle GOs for our Washington tax refund. So a pre-sale order is an order we receive before we were awarded the underwriting. It makes sense that we're going to fill that order first. And that's the whole point of Franklin calling me. I shouldn't feel special, by the way, Acolyte, because they're going to call, you know, Bank of America. You know, they don't care who gets it. Group order. So we win the syndicate, and, you know, maybe T-Row calls me. And T-Row says, Dean, we want $10 million worth of bonds. I say, who would you like to designate within our syndicate for the credit? And they say, yeah, you know, Dean, if I designate UBS, then you're mad. I designate you, and then UBS is mad. And, you know, I'm more interested in getting bond. I leave my order a group order, undesignated order. What I'd like to do is split my largesse with the entire syndicate. So group undesignated orders have priority next. Then we have Pretty Girls Date More, designated orders. Fidelity calls, says, Dean, we like 10 million, designate UBS. Woo, good day for UBS. I call you, say, hey, you might want to call the Fidelity guy and say thanks. Just designated you, right? Very important. Member orders always come last. Brian, this was a while back, but New Jersey used to allow for new negotiated GO underwritings of New Jersey's GO. At the time, the governor was a guy named Governor Florio. And the governor would say to the syndicates, did I tell you my nephew is in public finance? I said, no, Governor, you never mentioned that to me. You know, it'd be helpful if you put his firm in the syndicate and designated him for some orders. Now, you know that the rest of us are going to dime him out, turn him in, because his nephew was making $500,000 doing nothing, just being, you know, putting syndicates and being designated. So, you know, by the way, if we depart from that, Acolyte, as the manager, if I depart from that order priority, then I got to be able to justify it to the rest of my syndicate members. You know, I'm supposed to be acting in the best interest of the syndicate. And what governs that relationship, test question, is a syndicate letter. They love to test you on documents, and the syndicate letter governs our relationship as a syndicate. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, I love it. All these birthday wishes. Taking my ass on me. Of course, we wish you luck. Bon chance, mon ami. That's French for good luck, my friend. I'm sure you're going to do fine. We're sending some good testing and energy your ways. Utah. All right. Woohoo. I am back at it after taking a couple weeks off. After I think that's okay. Listen, sometimes the refresh and reset, even if you haven't missed the mark, sometimes a refresh and a reset can be really productive. I can't tell you, Melissa, how many times I've had people tell me they're getting burnt out. I believe them. They're just kind of stuck. I said, do me a favor, take a day or two, refresh, reset, get back to it. Get back to it. California. All right. Second attempt tomorrow, Julie. So after failing by 6, I dedicated all my time to studying for using STC from my provider. I bought the QBank. I wouldn't want you to buy the QBank today to see the difference. I'm not a fan of that because what are you going to do? I mean, if you're testing tomorrow, what are you going to do with the Kaplan QBank? Julie, what's more important, I think, tonight is to get a good night's rest and guard your psyche. You know, the most important thing, Julie, for you is to be confident in the execution of your study plan up to now, because the study plan is over. To be confident in yourselves and more importantly, Julie, be confident in your answers tomorrow. That is the most important thing. So I'm not sure why. I'm sure it sounds like see the differences. I'm guessing what that says, Brian. All right, woo! If you're new and joining us, the way we celebrate testing victories is we ring the bell. You know, this comes from a movie, I think the best movie ever made on banking, called It's a Wonderful Life. If you want to know how banks work and fractional banking, watch It's a Wonderful Life. And Clarence, tells the guy, well, listen, I'd like to show you what your life, it's kind of like a Scrooge kind of thing. The ghost of Christmas passes. And he says, here's how the community would be if you weren't here as a banker helping these people finance things, houses and colleges and things like that, because then this guy, Mr. Potter, would have a monopoly on money. And there's no more insidious monopoly than I'm the only guy that's got any money. He loses a reserve requirement. Anyways, in the movie, Clarence says every time they ring a bell, that's an angel getting their wings. So here at Guru Nation, when we ring the bell, that's another victorious test taker. And then we also waste a beverage, a toasting beverage in honor of your victory. And tonight, very special beverage, Herradura Selection Suprema. I didn't do the Mezcal tonight. That was pretty rough. Well, I don't know, Julie. I don't know. Let me go back and see what your scores were. You didn't give us enough data. Oh, you didn't give us status about where you're at in your STC practice tests, right? So I can't really say anything, Julie, based on failing 6 points in July. That data is useless for us in terms of where we're at now. What I would like to see is another data point. What are you getting on STC exams? That would be helpful. So, that's one thing we don't want you to do is memorize questions and answers. We want you to understand the concept. So I'm not worried if the concept's in a different format and you still understand the concept. But I am worried about your psyche in buying a QBank the night before your exam. I wish you would have come on here first and, we could have said, well, why are you doing that? You don't want to be your own worst enemy, right? And so, as I said, what you really want to do is do what you can to put yourself in position for success. So I will answer your question if you tell me what your most recent STC practice test scores are, then I'd be helpful to tell you what I believe you'll pass. Now, I would tell you I'm a positive person. And that means I think everybody who's taken a test is going to pass. Not really. Brian and I know people who've done the work, and we know they're going to go down there and they're going to make the mark. And very rarely are we surprised. Brian, do you have any thoughts on Julie here? And
I like, and we've said this before, right? There's no problem being having diverse questions, just looking at the different concepts or the same concepts in different formats. It's great. Having diversity in test questions is a good thing. Night before,
Yeah. I have 2 weeks for the 65. All right. I have not been consistent since I work full time. Jeff, I'm with you, man. It is a challenge for part-time test takers to carve out the time. 4th attempt. Oh my goodness. Plan on taking the end of November. So I failed last in March. Is this good? I don't know, Jeff. I'd like to get again, same thing. We need some data. So what I would like to do, you've been studying 2 weeks. You've tested 3 times already. I would like you to take a practice test, just an intellectual inventory. Yeah, I know it's only 2 weeks in to get a score, because if there's some residual knowledge there, I don't know how much you missed it by, but let's say you do a practice test score and you tell me it's like mid-60s, then I would move that up. I would be more aggressive because I think it's easier to collapse that study time, just really suck it up, trying to carve out those study blocks rather than extending it. I think that almost makes it more difficult. Your thoughts on that, Brian?
Jeff, Dean and I have said this many times. We encounter folks just like you who have to work full time and or go home to a 2-year-old, right, and take care of the family and try to study this garbage, right? This stuff. But that one line in your statement is troubling to me. You got to find a way to do this consistently every day. It's got to be part of your life. Dean and I always recommend study blocks. Now, I'll give you the flexibility to determine how long those study blocks are, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and how many of those study blocks per day you want to do. But you got to be consistent, and you got to do it every day.
And if the more study blocks you can stack, the quicker you can test, right? So, I don't like the idea that you say, hey, Dean, I can only do one study block in 90 minutes, and I'm going to test in November. And the problem with that is, rather than accelerate it, you can end up being in November, and now that study block you did, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago kind of dissipates the effect. So I'm a believer in cramming. I'm not a believer in, we have, Brian, some people who tell us they have 6 months to test, and we go, geez, that's ridiculous.
No, too long.
It's harmful. So you would think that more time is your friend, but not so much, right?
Not if you're not consistent. It's not.
That's right. What authority does the administrator have over federal above? Well, you just answered your own question. None above the state administrator. The states aren't above the federal government. The National Securities Market Improvement Act established federally covered investment advisors and federally covered securities. And so the state administrator can't do anything to impose any kind of a registration requirement on a federally covered security. The one that's very testable, Michael, is mutual funds. There's others, exempt transactions like Reg D, stocks that trade NASDAQ or New York. But the answer to your question is the state administrator has no authority over registration requirements. Be careful what I just said. Registration requirements. Now, that doesn't mean I can use a federally covered security to defraud a resident of a state. I go, hey, it's a federally covered security. No one is exempt from anti-fraud. Nobody's exempt from that kind of thing. But the answer is none. Filing AML consent service. Let me finish up. I'll give it to you, Brian. Filing is a courtesy. It's not a method of registration. Right? So you're going to miss it if you tell me that a mutual fund, federally covered security, is registered through notice filing. No. This is Franklin Templeton saying, as a courtesy to the state administrator, we are going to be selling this mutual fund in your state. Could we send you some money? AML, anti-money laundering, you need to know about CTRs, SARs, placement, red flags, fins, and that's there. Consent to service, very testable. It's a permanent part of your record. It allows the state administrator to accept legal documents on your behalf. So, I don't have to track you down to serve you. I can serve the state administrator. Test question, permanent part of the record. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe this question may be referring to the anti-fraud provision. State administrators have no authority over federal advisors. With the exception, they can still enforce anti-fraud provisions.
So, Michael, I think
question.
Well, yeah, Michael, I said that, right? Be careful.
That's right.
I said, Dean, I said they can't impose registration requirements.
Right.
So, Michael, let's be very clear. You could go to state prison for defrauding a resident using a federally covered security. Right? So, hi, Dean and Brian. Hi, Eric. How are you? Taking the exam tomorrow. Pray for me. I don't, Alec, pray, but my mom does. And my mom has a prayer box, and it has 100% pass rate. So I'm going to make a little postie pad here. Alec Hartman, I'm going to tell mom to put it in her little prayer box, and you should be good to go. I would not like you to be dependent on God's good graces to give you a good draw and pass. One of my favorite sayings, Alec, is God helps them who helps themselves. Those who wait passively for fortune to shower her gifts upon them are likely to wait a long time. So. Voltville, happy birthday. Thank you. Take the Series 710 or Series 10 Monday. What a slog. We've had some very good people passing here lately, the SID 10, and what a slog that is. So
great scores.
I'm with you in spirit. That's a real slog. I love your scores.
Great.
A master exam tomorrow. You're looking great. You're looking great. 60% Q-bank raisage. I don't see any red flags there, Volkswagen. I'm expecting a report of another sales supervisor. Woohoo. In fact, I'm so confident.
There you go.
I'm ringing your victory bell in advance and toasting a sales supervisor. Got a question on mutual funds that stumped me. Would you say they're best for diversification or most economical way to invest? They're not the most economical way because they have fees. You know, there is a problem, Melissa, with having monkeys harvest bananas. What is the problem with paying a monkey to harvest bananas? They eat the product. And so mutual funds have an expense structure, and that expense structure includes active management, which means there's transaction costs are not tax efficient. So I would not say that. The second part, would I say diversification? Well, the easiest way, I'm going to break that into two components. There is a test question about selection risk, non-systematic risk. You know, there are 10 equally suitable ideas. I pick one of the 10. The other 9 double. The one I picked went under. The easiest way to avoid selection risk, non-systematic risk, or systemic risk is to diversify. The easiest way to diversify, now I'm answering your question, for most retail investors is in a mutual fund. But the number one reason to buy a mutual fund is professional management, unless it's like an index fund, right? I say, Melissa, do you have the time, the temperament, the expertise to be managing money, doing battle with Mr. Market? You say, absolutely not. I said, well, then you ought to hire a professional manager to do that for you. She goes, I can hire a professional money manager with my little as $500? I say, Melissa, there are men and women who have sold their soul to manage that $500 for you. And so that's why you would buy a mutual fund and the ease of ownership. Now, the other test question, Melissa, is in a mutual fund, risk prevails despite your diversification as it relates to systematic risk, the tendency of securities prices to move together. I think of that as when bad things happen to good stocks. There's nothing different about my stock today. It's just a bad day of the market. What do you think, Brian, about this question? Do you think mutual funds are the most economical? I would say ETFs would be more economical.
And also, Melissa, this is a pretty good example of what the Series 65 and 66 loves to do, is love to put a couple of answers in there that kind of think, well, yeah, they're both kind of right.
Yeah.
But the best would be the diversification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, don't read things into questions. Don't make them harder than they are. Well, look at that. We got Johnny Walker Blue in the house.
There you go.
I'm taking my 7 on Thursday. I almost did Johnny Walker Blue today, Brian. I almost grabbed the bottle of blue for my libations, but I like my Hereditor selection Supreme. I have an average of 70 on finals, 15 of them. Wow.
Ouch.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. You know, I don't know how many days. I hope that you didn't do this like 8 today and 7 yesterday. You know,
Yeah, right.
You know, pace yourself, my friend. I would like to have more, again, data. You know, what you're giving me, 65, 66 test takers, is a median. And I would rather have a range. And then I would like to know what the most recent of those 15 are, right? So I think you give me kind of a broad data set. But I do like that, and I think you're going to be fine. It's past perfect. So any tips for the final day? Yeah, again, what I always say, the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do nothing that makes you go backwards, right? So you want to make sure you're moving forward, you're matriculating down the field into scoring position, right? So I would say keep your rhythm, get some rest. Don't do another practice exam. I think we told somebody earlier, hey, if you want to do one, do one. I don't think I would do it in your case if you've done 15. Your thoughts on this one, Brian?
Yeah, boy. Have we remediated any of those?
Yeah. You know, I'm kind of with Brian. I would think it would be hard to do this properly if there's 15 of them and they're remediated. What's up with the dog? I got Mama Dog. He's a cross between a Pyrenees and a Border Collie. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah.
He's going nuts out there.
I think he's discovering your cows.
Yeah. Well, They were out here again today, Brian, the whole herd. I mean, oh my God. I keep fencing more and more of my property to keep the cows out. I'm probably just going to have to suck it up and get it. I love it, Lurker. Godspeed. I like it. That's a great way to say it. Brian the Goat. I like it. Brian's the Goat. I thought Brian it was Tom Brady, but I guess it's you.
Wow, that made my day. Wow.
The average ratings on the exam on Kaplan. That's great, Alec. Fantastic. 85 on QBank chapters. I don't really care about those scores, and here's why. I have people tell me they're doing quizzes, but yeah, you got to transition to practice tests.
That's right.
And so I'll ask somebody, well, what's your practice? So, well, I'm going to do that. I had one person tell me they're not going to do it. They're just going to do chapter quizzes. I go, well, why would you not want to get an intellectual inventory? So good news, 85 on the QBanks means you can leave them alone. And now you can focus on practice test. Should you be worried? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, Kaplan, it's harder to memorize questions on Kaplan. There's 3,600 plus performance opportunities on Kaplan. I call that practice questions. So you could do it, but boy, that would be hard. It's easier to do on other test parameters because they have less questions. But there's nothing to be worried about. Don't create your own kind of, anxiety for no reason. And I don't see any reason you should be having anxiety on that. If you got used to the format, those 80s, I think, would be like 90s. I'm struggling. Well, let me just change this question. I'm struggling with regulation. No. You're struggling with registration. NASA and test prep vendors call that regulation. But what that really is registration. So you're either registering the investment advisory firm with the state or the SEC, never both. Never both. It's one or the other. It's a bad miss. If you give me any answer about an investment advisor who's registered in state and SEC, you're wrong. You will always be wrong. My Who's Your Daddy video, I'll tell you what, I think another good, helpful thing, Brian was kind enough to do with us a evening class called Definitions of Persons. Put that in the channel search bar, and people have found that very, very helpful. The other thing Brian has offered in the past could be sunset. But Brian in the past has offered a copy of his cheat sheet. And if you want to send him an email, maybe he'll be kind enough to send you his cheat sheet where he actually has a flow chart of these various where they go. I think it's the best. I call it a flow chart. I tell Brian I don't like he calls it a cheat sheet because I'm always afraid somebody's going to take it to the exam with them and they're going to forget it's in their bag or they're going to leave it on the table somewhere, But it's excellent on that. Brian, your thoughts besides those two videos and your cheat sheet?
That's the first thing I thought of. I got a cheat sheet for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, a flow chart for you.
Flow chart. I like it. I literally, Brian, use that when I'm tutoring sometimes. Say, hey, let's just get out Brian's cheat sheet. Okay, well, let's go through this question and let's see which little box it goes into, right? I think Brian asks people, do you tell people to memorize it? I think you tell them, right? Is that the cheat sheet?
I don't tell people to do anything. I just,
buffet.
It's so much easy. It's 85 pages of text down to one.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I should show them your email address. I think I got it here somewhere. There we go.
The engineer.
If you would like to send Brian a request for his cheat sheet, send it to Brian at testgeekexamprep.com. And again, just please, you're not allowed to bring things into the exam with you. So you're allowed to have intellectual ownership of his cheat sheet, use it while you're studying. But by the time you get down there, it should be in your brain housing group. Yeah. All right, let's see where we're at. Boom, boom, boom. Godspeed. We did that one. Thanks, dude. All right. 66 playlist on Brian 60s. What's the story about the engineer that isn't true? LOL. I have no idea. Do you have a story about an engineer in your?
It's a classic question. All the following are excluded from the definition except, right? It's the late accountants, teachers, and engineers. And they usually change one of those. And they change the engineer. I think Kaplan's done it. I've seen STC do it. And they turn engineer into geologist.
Oh, okay.
I had someone argue with me for 15 minutes that a geologist and an engineer are the same thing. And they didn't realize my degree is in geology.
Oh, I was just going to say, no, Bechtel is an engineering.
And I'm not an engineer. So, and I think that's the story here.
Okay. Marcel was kind enough to send me. Isn't that cool, Brian?
What is it?
It's a Route 66 oil barrel.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
And then he was kind enough to send me the dice. I probably will move those dice somewhere else, but for now they hang there. Marcel, Mom wants me to give those to her because this reminds her of her era when she was a Bobby Sox, or what do they call those people? Bobby Sox or something. And she wants to put that in her car. So I'll tell her I've asked for your permission. If not, no that. And then I just haven't reorganized where to put the license plate, right? So I got to find a plate. He got me a 66 license plate where it has the various states that are part of Route 66. We did. Brian and I ordered a Michelob Ultra, and we placed it on the bar in your honor. And Brian drank that up. So when you come out, Williams B, we should have taken a picture, Marcel, but I'm never quite comfortable how many people want to be part of our social media enterprise. So Brian took a picture of him and his significant other and myself. And then we started Marcel the day. He asked me, did you do anything with that on social media? I go, what do you think? Brian is fair game, but I try and be sensitive to third parties. We are going to start putting a lot more. I'm not going to get style drift. Style drift is, when a mutual fund manager starts doing things that he's really not good at, and it suffers. I love Notman Marks, Brian. I love them. I think they're great. But I can't help but think of style drift when they're doing all kinds of things except, besides test prep. They're doing like leadership academies and, I'm like, okay, and, a lot of people are doing motivational difficulties, hype videos. I don't do those kind of things. I have, Marcel, been putting like Zig Ziglar, who I'm a Napoleon Hill kind of motivational things in social media. I'm not going to make social media hype videos like that. But what I am going to do is put more content that's adjacent to the desk content. What I mean by that is like pictures of Brian and I and, pictures of me in my cigar lounge. I'm going to do a mobile podcast in my cigar lounge. And I think I'm going to make a little video on market orders and limit orders using cigars. I'd like a cigar for $20 or less, or immediate execution, best available price. So we're going to try and diversify a little bit. Happy early birthday. Thank you, Alec. Can you simplify regs? Well, I'd be rich if I could, right? I'd have to charge.
I have simplified it, and I
am. Look at that. The Brian. Okay, so Brian has simplified it. So, Amelia, the answer to all you seek is with the test geek. So,
watch that show on Dean's playlist. The definition of person.
There you go. I think there you go, Brian. So, Amelia, watch definitions of persons. I would say, in general, Brian, I think, is one of the best at simplifying things. Sometimes he takes heat for oversimplifying it from.
I do. You're right.
From people who aren't taking the test. I always think it's funny when it's not test takers who have a problem with Brian oversimplifying. They go, "Thank you so much." He has a 24 video on buy-ins and closeout. That 24s. I always refer him to it, and they go, "Oh, I cried. It was so simple." So I call that distillation, Amelia. So I would say Brian is very good at distillation of those regs and testable content. But watch that definitions of persons. So you put that in the channel search part, but definition of persons, and that video will magically appear. If I score a high 90s, oh my God, including Brian's, absolutely. Now, I'm not sure that I believe you got a high 90 on Brian's test geek practice test. I sometimes Brian will tell people like Amelia that, and they go, "Are you calling me a liar?" And I say, "No, Amelia, I'm just making it clear what a liar I am if you're telling the truth." Usually when somebody tells me they got a 90 on Brian's test geek practice final, it is not the first time they've taken it. Exactly. And I would tell you with any exams, including Brian's, that the diagnostic use of the exam falls dramatically if you've already been exposed to it. But anyways, I do think you should go test. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. Brian and I will use that to buy another Michelob Ultra in Marcel's honor.
Marcel, yeah. It wouldn't pay for our bottle of wine, but
that was some good wine we had, my friend.
I was a little disappointed, but that's
for you. I'll tell you next time. I'll bring one of my halls, and we'll pay the corkage.
I've got a couple of them too. Yeah.
Oh. There we go. Happy birthday, Dean. Great news. Pass the 7. Yay! 2-0. All right. One more for the hat trick.
2-0. Boy, that
One
feels
more for
good.
the hat trick. You've got this. One more testing victory. I've been scoring really well on STC. Well, again, Julie, I hate to be a jerk here, but that's not a number, right? You get tested on financial considerations and non-financial considerations. Non-financial considerations are things that aren't numbers that show up on a balance sheet. So, and not that I don't trust you're scoring well, but I would prefer, instead of you telling us. Now, remember, I know you might not want your business on blast on a chat on a YouTube live stream, but that being said, I would be more interested in a score, and then Brian and I could determine whether that's really well. We'd be looking for mid-70s, Brian and I.
That's right.
Would you classify a hot dog as a sandwich?
No.
No?
No.
Well, aren't there people who are really into like the hot dog sandwich thing? Is it Chicago? There's some city where like you're not supposed to put ketchup or mustard on a hot dog or something.
That's right. Yeah, there's all kinds of rules.
I don't know. I like a hot dog every now and again with some sauerkraut. I like a bratwurst. Maybe it's not
that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Taking the SIE, any help with bonds and yield to maturity and par value? Well, in this live stream, that's kind of hard to get done, all that stuff.
That's right.
I get confused about coupon versus the yield to maturity, so that's easy to solve. Coupon is also known as the nominal yield or fixed or stated rate of return. So if I ask you what's the coupon on the bond and you respond 5%, that means 5% of par, you're getting $50 in 2 semi-annual installments. That never changes. The issuer says, we don't care who has the bonds, whether they got it from us in the primary market, or they buy in the secondary market, we're paying 5%. Yield to maturity is what you make by holding the bond over its life, and that would be dependent on the price you pay. If the price you paid is par, all of those yields will be the same. But if you were able to buy the bond in the secondary market at a discount, the yield to maturity will be higher than the coupon. And if you buy the bond in the secondary market at a premium, the yield to maturity will be less. Justin, go into the channel search bar, put teeter-totter, and numerous videos will magically appear of me lecturing on this, me doing practice questions on this. So we have plenty of content. You sell it, end up selling it. Is the coupon the price? It's not. The coupon, as I said, is what you get paid. Justin, I lent the Ford Motor Company $100,000. I bought 100 of their bonds. I have two risk in those Ford Motor Company debentures. I have interest rate risk and credit risk. Ford Motor Company is less than investment grade. Its credit rating is C. I do not plan on holding or selling those bonds. Those bonds paid me 8%. So, Justin, I got two payments of $4,000. $4,000 on January 1st, $4,000 on July 1st. The Ford Motor Company debentures were callable in 5 years at par. And those bonds were called from me. So I didn't make nor lose any money to the call. I paid $1,000 per bond. I got $1,000 per bond. So all those yields are the same. Now, if you were able to buy that in the secondary market, the coupon is 8 and it will still be 8. But hey, maybe interest rates go down. Somebody will offer me a premium. Maybe they go up and somebody offers me a discount. Brian has his board going. Let me give the board to Brian. There you go, Brian.
Yeah, very, very quickly, because I always illustrate this out. I was just going to say the same thing to Justin, Dean, that you did. Go look at Dean's videos or my videos if you have my video course. We spell all this out. It's on every single test you take. It's the one concept you have to understand bonds. Dean oftentimes calls the Series 7, they used to call it the stockbroker's exam. We should be calling it the bond broker's exam.
Yeah, way more big questions on bond for sure.
Watch those videos, read those textbooks, and it should come much clearer.
That's right. All right, let's see what's next. Got a question on my exam last week about efficient market hypothesis that always... And answer, throwing darts is the strong form of the efficient market hypothesis. That's called the random walk. Don, there was a famous experiment where the Wall Street Journal had a contest between a monkey throwing darts and professional money managers to, prove the efficient market hypothesis. Don, the Wall Street Journal makes its money in the securities industry. And they stopped the contest because the monkeys were winning more often with their dart throws than the professionals picking the assets. So if you believe in the strongest form of the efficient market hypothesis, you believe that the market can't be beat, there's no such thing as alpha, you should accept a market-based return index, be done with it, right?
That's right.
But surely that isn't the correct answer. It is for the strongest form of the efficient market, right? So if you said throwing darts is just as effective a way to pick stocks as active management, that is the strongest form of efficient market hypothesis. So do you think, Brian? I think throwing darts could be the correct answer.
I believe it is. I even use it in my video.
Do you?
I do.
There you go.
Because of the monkey or the chimpanzee versus those that test at Wall Street Journal. It's a classic story. Yeah.
Embarrassing. Is Casper out there, Mom? Casper is our next door neighbor, Pyrenees, who's the father of the dog I got my mom. And I guess he's checking up on his daughter.
Gotcha.
The guy that we have some people out here, Brian, who believe in free range dogs. I've never heard of such a thing. And they just let their dogs go wherever. And, the guy, my neighbor's name is John. And he said, well, Dean, that's kind of his job as a Pyrenees. He's keeping the coyotes away. I said, well, John, I'm not sure. Wish you could keep the cows away. That would be a little better. How would you compare STC to the real deal? I think, listen, every person who's looking for the real deal is after fool's gold. When people ask Brian and I, whose questions are the closest to the actual exam? Test geek. No, I'm joking. You need to make sure you learn these concepts, because that is, again, going to be a fatal mistake, thinking that if you learn somebody's course, it will match the exam. All these vendors reverse engineer their content based on the content outline published by FINRA and NASAA. So mixed reviews, I said, Luke, in social media, excuse my language, opinions are like assholes and everybody has one. And it's very disconcerting in social media when we have 50 different reviews. Oh, STC spot on. Cap was spot on. Test Geek spot on. The only one people don't think is spot on is achievable. But other than that, I think you should make sure that you're trying to learn the concept. Now that I've said that, I think STC is a very reputable test prep vendor. I'm not worried about somebody who has that as their primary study material. Do I think they should invest it with something more than that? I do not, but I would say the same of Kaplan. Kaplan is a reputable test prep vendor. Now, I would tell you that both STC, Kaplan, Brian, Dean, we work very hard to make sure that our content is as close as it can be without getting in trouble. Because, I can't ask you, for example, like what's question 35? I can say, Luke, what do you think we should have done a better job preparing you for? Right? That's acceptable. So we work hard. It's much harder than the others. It's relatively easier. I would say make this journey, Luke, your own. Every testing journey is your testing journey. It's your individual journey. And boy, this is one thing I don't like about social media. As much as I'm on Reddit and I'm on Facebook and I'm on, what else am I on? I mean, I don't, I'm there. And boy, it just hurts my heart because people do get distracted. They start listening too much to others. There's something to be said for, putting yourself in a testing cocoon and doing it. This also happens, Luke, when it's a cohort where there's, a firm and all 20 of them are testing, and sometimes people can get distracted. I like the simpatico, the empathy that comes from that. One of the things we try and do here on Tuesdays is to let people know they're not alone, that, there's other people in similar situations, and join us Tuesday just for the camaraderie, the fellowship, the fun. But be careful you don't let people cloud your mind with that kind of a thing. Your thoughts, Brian?
What you just said, Dean, was worth $1 million. Make your own testing journey. Don't listen to all those voices. There's enough content, STC, Kaplan, whomever. You got so much input already. Stop with the energy thieves, people who are stealing your
I call them energy vampires. And look, this could even be, the senior people at your firm.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to get STC and just do 15 practice tests. No. But actually, I like the question, Luke. So it's a good question because, you might have helped somebody else who's on social media and they're, oh my God, what test is it? Some people say it's the easiest test ever. Some people say it's a harder test. Some people say it's STC. Some people say I had a guy, David Bach, who's was a Morgan Stanley broker, and when he came to class, he then wrote a book called Automatic Millionaire. He's a real cool guy, and he came to class, Brian. He had literally bought every vendor's course.
Oh my goodness!
And I said, "Now, David, you realize that's just the same stuff sliced and diced differently. So that don't try and learn all that stuff." 67, 62 test on Friday. It's doable. I think you're at risk, but it's doable. So a glass half full kind of thing. We would like you to be in the mid 70s. There's going to be some other variables, like what kind of draw you got, some other things. So I would prefer that, but I would encourage you to go. And more often than not, let me give you an example. I had I was doing a class on the corporate campus. There are 20 people. We go Monday through Thursday. They take a practice test Friday. They test Monday. The cohort is 20. And when we took the practice test Friday, I was talking to the corporate trainer and I said, listen, 12 of these 20 members of our cohort got over 70, and I think they're going to pass Monday. That leaves us with 8. I said 6 of the 8 got between 60 and 70. And here you go, Maritime, you would be in this data set. I said, I think half of them are going to fail. And then she said, well, who are they? Let's save them. I said, well, I don't know who they are. It's a statistic. It's not a person. If we knew who it was, we would save them. I said, the sad part is there's no reason for that. If they just didn't get wobbly over the weekend, they finished strong. They stayed dedicated. They stayed disciplined. They stayed as organized as they could. Technique, keep the anxiety at a manageable level, they would pass. And I was so proud. 6 of them passed. We went 6 for 6. Don't you love this, Brian? And she goes, well, I thought you said we were going to lose half of them. I said, well, obviously you didn't listen to the conversation that I had with you. I said, there's no reason for that. And hey, kudos to them. Now, we had 2 people that were below 60. And I said, that's going to be really difficult. Because if you're below 60, that means you have a knowledge deficit problem. That means you don't know what you're being asked. You don't know what questions or answers are being offered to you. That's tough. Now, I was really proud of those 2. They missed it, Brian, but they got high 60s, which I thought was a pretty good comeback. And then they eventually, 30-day wait scored. We ended up going 18 for 20, and then we went 20 for 20. And so that would be my answer to your question. Should you stop final testing? I think this is Tuesday. Maybe do one more, but I wouldn't get your psyche, your self-esteem wrapped up in it. I don't think it would hurt, but I do think remediation would be more important. Are you using Kaplan? I'm not sure who you're using. If you're using Kaplan, the answer is no. And the reason I'm going to say no is because Kaplan has a performance tracker that could tell you of these scores where your weak areas. And in that case, I would work on those weak chapters. I would be doing remediation. So assuming you can identify target areas, I don't like weak chapters. I would prefer to know what those subjects are. Right. So I don't want you to spend, 4 hours remediating margin for the 2 or 3 points you're going to get. But so I would say not weak chapters. I would say weak subject areas based on weighting on the exam. Brian, your thoughts?
That's right. That's what that performance track, man. That thing is amazing. Why didn't we have that 30 years ago when we were?
Oh my goodness. Rinse and repeat, right? Well, Marcel, thank you so much. We got to get Brian to New Orleans. I was talking to a significant other and I said, we got to do it. She had been there. We got to get Brian down there. I might have to plan a surprise because she was telling me she likes to surprise you.
So we have 3 September birthdays. Mine, yours, and
what was yours, Brian? Oh, you told me a couple weeks ago. I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I missed it. Who's the other one?
Marcel.
Oh, Marcel. Oh, I just read the rest of it. 65. Well, you're looking good, my friend.
Yeah.
You are looking good. And Marcel, he's one.
Here's a 1960. Me too.
Yeah. He won our coaching call many, many times. And Brian Marcel said, he had something to put, behind me. And I thought, he asked me for my email. And I thought he was just going to send me a picture so that, if I liked it, I could buy it. And this is the class that Marcel has. No, that's not what he wanted. He wanted my address. And he said, I already got him. It showed up. And I'm very hard, Marcel, to buy for. So, I love that order bar. So I would say 9 out of 10 people, I would say thanks, but no thanks. So that's, you're a 10%er in terms of you send me anything you'd like. Mom made Marcel made some fun because I have somebody I've been working with for a while, and she keeps promising that she's going to send me something. Not that you need to. The gift or cadeau rule does not apply to Brian and I. You can send us whatever you'd like. But anyways, she talks a good talk, but it never has shown up. And so Mom says, wow, you just mentioned this to me a week ago, and here it is. I go, well, Marcel is not that person. He doesn't talk it. He walks it. All right. Woohoo. Yeah, well, 63, 65 is the equivalent of 66. I'm assuming that you weren't sponsored. And so if that's the case and you're just building your resume, I like that because, well, it's a lot of overlap. Lander, I haven't seen Vince in a while. Lander, we come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to help you pass your exams. The season is how long that takes. And, the season with Vince is over. So I haven't seen him in a while, but he was here every Tuesday for several months as he worked his way through his SIE, his 7, and his 66. And very rarely am I surprised. And he had missed his 66. And I said, well, Vince, this is a plan B. This isn't a plan A. I can't tell you. There are people out there telling people to do this as their plan A, which is stupid and ridiculous. But I said, hey, you know what you might want to consider, Vince, is taking a 63, 65, and you're back in business, no 30-day wait. And I know you well enough content-wise, and I think you can do that without any additional study. And that's what he did, and now he's back up and running. So in your case, that is the equivalent of a 66. So assuming you find sponsorship for a 7, you're going to be good to go, assuming you have if you don't have an SIE, I'd take that first. So I'm assuming that, if you take the SIE first, then sure, take a 63. Should you always buy study materials? I don't know. I would feel bad telling you not to. I would tell you, I do think as it relates to content, I have enough on the channel for a 63 for somebody who's already down to 65 that is sufficient. I think you watch those videos, I think you'll be okay.
That and the Q bank. Yeah.
And the Q bank. Yeah, you need a Q bank for sure.
Yeah.
You need a Q bank for sure. Pass the 60. Oh, that's the same one. I was about to get another drink. Let's see, where are we at here? I'm kind of getting lost here a little bit. Catherine, Ryan, John, Chicago. Passed my SIE on Friday. Did we do Alex already? Low key was too easy. Kudos. Recent exam scores from John. I like those. You should be good to go. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's good. Sounds really good.
John Walker, 1-0. Thursdays, 2-0. All right. It's a rite of passage. I like it. It is a rite of passage. It's a barrier to entry into the securities industry. Everybody knows that have experienced this. It's part of the origin story of becoming a broker, right? Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I said on my birthday, I'm urging everybody to pass. I think they're both great cigars. Fuentes and Rocky Patel. The cigar I was going to light up tonight in honor of our birthday was a Patron. They make great cigars. So that was the stick I was going to smoke. But Marcel says, Mom can have the dice. All right. She'll be excited. I'll tell her that you said that. I'm not sure how this is going to look in her car. But I can't believe it, Marcel. They renewed her license and she's going to be allowed to drive until she's 85. And I had to tell her, I said, Mom, just because they say you can drive doesn't mean you should. Right. 7 to 10 days out is when you should start your remediation, right? I should say start your practice test with remediation.
Exactly.
Boom. Past perfect, high 70s. I like that. Past perfect is tougher, and the variance will be in your favor. The variance will be in your favor. Do we need to know the difference between exclusion and exemption? I'm going to answer, Brian. I think the answer is no. What you have to be able to tell me is, why is somebody not registering, right? So if we're not registering the broker dealer, if not, why not? If we're not registering the agent, if not, why not? If we're not registering the security, if not, why not? If we're not registering the investment advisory, if not, why not? If we're not registering the investment advisor rep, if not, why not? Not whether the why not is an exclusion or exemption. It's why they're not registering. Brian, your thoughts on that?
That's right. I don't know if I'd get into the weeds with the exclusion versus
Yeah, and I think test members feed this.
the exam is hard enough. Yeah.
BD
I
is
get
exempt
it. I get what they're saying. I really do.
Yeah, BD is exempt from the definition of a BD. That's not true, right? An out-of-state BD is a BD. It just doesn't have to register. BDs are simple: no office, no retail, no register.
Right.
That's it. The flip of that is BD has an office, has a retail client, and then needs to register. So a BD, an IR has 4 retail clients. That's called de minimis. Not every investment advisor. It's not the IR. It's the investment advisory firm that is state covered and the investment advisor rep of a state covered investment advisor that has a de minimis. If they have no place of business in that state, they can have up to 5 retail clients and not register. If they have an office, they have to register. If they're federally covered, this is just meaningless, because if it's a federally covered investment advisor, they're registering in no state, period, full stop. And the investment advisor rep of a federally covered investment advisor is only registering in a state in which they have a place of business. They can have 1,000 customers in a state and not register as long as they don't have a place of business.
Watch the definition.
Please do. Boy, it's frustrating. So, RV, the reason we're frustrated, Brian and I, is because he has a video and we cover all of this. And some people, when they ask us questions like this, we know they haven't watched the videos. Right? So, but watch those videos. They're spot on. Okay, looks like Brian here. I think I might have missed some people. If I did, I apologize. John passed. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll do the draw. We'll do our drawing for the coaching call. And then Brian, will stick around and I'll go through those chats. If you have a chat and I have an answer and I missed you, I'll circle back and I'll just make sure I go through there if you're still here. So let me go get our Wheel of Fortune.
Okay. Let me know when you want me to write it.
I will. Yeah. Let's try and get smoother on that. It's on me. I'm the one who's messing us up. But, there's the giveaway tool.
It's been pretty good.
Well, I mean, I think we should be. I feel like, as a producer at some point, we should be more like a real TV show or something, Hire Vanna White to come spin the wheel for us.
Exactly. Okay, Vanna, who's our lucky winner tonight?
So I'm going to kill you, Brian.
Okay.
I don't mean literally. I'm just going to move you from the screen. Okay. And I guess now I'm trying to see if I can see what you're going to write. Okay, listen, Brian's going to write a word. Do not put it in the chat until I tell you to, because otherwise it will not pick it up and you will not be in the drawing. Okay, so I'm ready. Wait till Brian gets it on the board. And it's going to be autumn. I love it. I'll solve the puzzle. So you got to put it in the chat exactly as Brian has it on the board. And what you win is not a tutoring session at a date and time of your choice. No. You win a coaching call. So if you win, you go to deantenneytutoring.com, setmore.com, and you put that in there. Let me find it. And you'll get a video link, and then I just show up and you tell me what you want to talk about. All right, let's go now. Put the Wheel of Fortune up there. Share screen. Wheel of Fortune. Boom. All right, we are ready. We are ready for the draw. Uh-oh. Did we mess up? We got nobody who wants to participate?
Time to write it in.
Do something wrong? Well, that's embarrassing.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go. Here, that's clicking. I guess there was a delay. We have to let Marcel win because he's been so gracious. But my God, I think I owe him like 4 hours of coaching calls. All right. And then remember, what you do is you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, class tab, coaching call. If it doesn't show, it just means I haven't reloaded it from last week. So I did last week, and then I got to put up this week. Okay, going once. That's 17. Anybody else want to participate? 18, last call. All right, here we go. Spin the wheel.
And the lucky winner is...
All right, Greta, you are the winner. So Go to deantenningtutoring.setmore.com. Give me till tomorrow morning. I think I'm going to have to reload a new coaching call into the back office. So, but that's how you go and you claim that. Yasha won last week, and you can feel free to send me an email. Say, hey Dean, I won the coaching call. Where's my link? But it should be up tomorrow. Okay, so Brian and I always say, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And you, Brian, say,
you must learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right. Brian, always thanks for joining us. I'll stick around and just check the chat and see if we have anything else. Brian, we'll see you next Tuesday. If you can join us, we always enjoy having you. So,
thanks.
Right.
Take care.
All right. So now let me go back up and we'll see if we missed anybody's chats here. Essentially, federally covered securities don't register by notification. That's correct. Because they're registered with the SEC, that's not correct. A Reg D private placement is a exempt transaction. It's not registered anywhere, the SEC or the states. The mutual fund is registered, and then securities that trade New York and NASDAQ. But they do file notice to the state, which informs them that, yeah, that's correct. That part's correct. How far the 65 should start for a CFP? Well, Greta, we don't have anything to do with CFPs, but I think when you're in a study mode of some sort, you've established a rhythm. In fact, people tell me when they have a kind of an emotional letdown when they get their testing done because they're used to being in this rhythm. And so I would say take enough time to refresh and reset and then go for it. But I would think there'd be people better informed on that than I am. Do we need to know the difference between, I think I answered that one. The answer is no. Taking the Naumann, love Naumann. Do I need it? You don't need it. I mean, it depends. I mean, Naumann is a fine provider. Naumann Marks, Brian Marks, all the people there are high quality. They're white gloves. So I don't think you need it. But if you want to have another Q Bank, I always think the Kaplan Q Bank is a good supplement. You're averaging 85s. If you feel like you're memorizing those Naumann questions, RV, then by all means, go buy a Kaplan Q Bank for, I think on 63, I think it's only like $25 or some crazy thing. Digestible way. Well, I don't know if Brian saw that. There we go. So, Brian, I think Brian's really good at distillation. 65. There you go. Woohoo. I love it. Your redemption, right? I always joke, Greta, you passed 2 tests. The 65 and a test of your resiliency. And passing that test of resiliency is a very good indicator that you're going to do well in the securities industry. So welcome. What to focus on those last bit of study time. Pay attention to customer accounts, Haley, is low-hanging fruit. Reread customer accounts. I would also pay attention to the weighting. The biggest weighting on the test is options, munis, and mutual funds. So spend some time there as well. 65, Ryan. Woo! Yeah, well, at 65, Brian and I both agree that the 65 is one of the toughest, if not the toughest exam. And when series 7s are incredulous, we say, well, the 7 has a narrative thread to it. Can you find a customer, open an account, make an investment? The 65 is all over the place. So kudos. That is a difficult exam for sure. I think I answered that one. All right, Alex. Woohoo! I think we talked about this one. You're good to go. Absolutely. Okay. So did I cover everything? I think I got everything. But if I didn't get to your question, just join us next Tuesday, or you can send me email at dean@guruexamprep.com, and I'm more than happy to answer anything I may have missed. So we had a lot of people on the call tonight, so I might have missed somebody. RJ, thank you so much for joining us on LinkedIn. Our preferred platform is YouTube, but we do broadcast to Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'm always glad to see somebody joining us from LinkedIn. Pass the SIE, I love it. And the 63, love it. I believe training consultants, this is my personal opinion, is a little skinny. And so I would supplement, whether that's a Q Bank or whether it's my YouTube channel or whether that's the Test Geek supplement. So I would supplement training consultants. It's, that would be my recommendation. All right, everybody. Well, it looks like we have got it all handled. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special birthday edition of our live stream Q&A, Ask the Series 7 Guru Anything. I do have a premiere on Thursday, so I will be at 5 o'clock Thursday doing a little premiere of a little carve-out I did on preferred stocks, and you're welcome to join us then. That is really my official birthday, which is Thursday. So hope to see you then. If not, I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much. And I have an attitude of gratitude as I enter my 63rd. If I'm 63, I think that means I'm entering my 64th year. I just really appreciate all the joy that I have received over the last 4 years with this YouTube channel. So thank you so much.